Glad to be here. Kathy would be here, but she had to run down to a foreclosure sale, and Christine is got a kind of an emergency project that she's working with. So you just got me.
Great.
Fortunately, I'm the only one who has any real new news. So it's and as I told John before this, it's not all good, but at least it's something. So the big difference between this week and last week is that in St. Louis City, they finally started issuing me summonses. That doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. My judge made us spend hours doing these extra orders to get specific permission to issue summonses. Got them issued. I got a court date of July 22nd. So that's kind of where we're working on as far as court dates and, at least summonses are going out now. And the frustrating thing is that we've also, we've been having these WebEx dockets. I had one on Wednesday where no tenant showed up. I had 20, 30 cases on and no tenant showed up. I suspect the clerks didn't send out notice. So this time around, they made us continue every case into July. They won't take default judgments. And they made me send out notices. So I spent, a day and a half drafting notices to all these people. On Monday. This week, a city employee came down, tested positive for COVID. So they are putting us all back to zero on that stuff. And they've told me at the earliest that we're going to have sheriff's evictions July 6th is when they will be starting. So it probably really doesn't matter that we didn't get default judgments because there's no point if you can't do anything with it. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of where they're sitting, and that's kind of a good guidepost to expect that we're going to see hiccups, particularly in St. Louis City and St. Louis County, where they're going to be extra careful. And we can tell you dates all day long. We're getting to the point where we almost don't want to tell our clients dates because we feel like we're pulling the rug out from underneath them every time we tell them something new and exciting and and all that. They are still letting me file drug evictions and immediate evictions, so there's that. And as far as the county goes, we haven't heard anything new. Anything new. I would suspect they're kind of in the same boat as being very careful. They seem to be less inclined to give us any dates or any reasons why, other than the judge says so. Christine's been doing dockets on Zoom, and they are letting us take default judgments, but we don't have any idea when the sheriff is actually going to be cooperating in St. Louis County. That's the big frustration is the sheriff, because we don't see any reason why the sheriff, is going to hurt anybody by, getting COVID by going out and putting people out, but they've tied that somehow to the COVID numbers. So I would suspect, we're kind of still in this slow crawl wherever, we get one step back, two steps forward kind of thing. And other than Jefferson and St. Charles, where things are just moving along, Jefferson's a little slow. They're backing up dates. I've been able, I filed a case and got in September, but I've been able to have them move to the early July part because they are prioritizing landlord cases. One thing, if you do file out in St. Jefferson, I went out there for the first time on Tuesday, and other than the attorneys who were probably from St. Louis, nobody was wearing masks. So if you are concerned about that, it was pretty much none of the court employees, none of the judges, clerks, nothing. And if you've been to Jefferson County courts, their rooms are, little 10 by 10 boxes. So you're real up there on people. And I mean, no court employees, about 25% of the defendants who showed up had masks on, but just really the attorneys. So it's something to consider. St. Charles is mandating everyone wears masks. They do temperature checks at Jefferson County for whatever that's worth. I was 97.5 on Tuesday. So that's the only precaution they're taking. There's more hand sanitizer, and they're suggesting people sit further apart. And there's less court dates, but it's still, they don't care as much. So it's something to be considered when you're filing out there. I guess that's really all for the update. I saw a question pop up. I couldn't read all of it. Asking about the city, something about a June 4th court date.
Yeah, I think it's more of maybe of a statement. Ann said, I echo Chris's experience with the city. We had a court date on June 4th and it was continued to July 23rd. I didn't hear why, but the voice recording said all cases from June 1 through 5 were continued, at least for Judge Perkins.
Yeah, and the judges are kind of just doing their own thing as far as dates. Uh, I'm able to bully my judge. No, bully, that's not the right word. I'm able to pester my judge for more dates because I'm in front of her a lot and I'm constantly apologizing to her for being so, she's like, the date's here. I'm like, no. Can you give me a week? Give me 2 weeks earlier. And so we're getting, she's probably sick of hearing from me, but so far she's done what I've asked. Doesn't mean I get, doesn't mean everything's going to change in July. I've kind of gotten done being overly optimistic at this point, and we're just kind of rolling with the punches as we see it. And I think that's the way it's going to go. I think as far as from your perspective as the landlords, we're going to see a lot more people missing their rent payments come July. If you haven't already seen it starting in June, once the unemployment starts running out, once people spend their stimulus money, unless there's another round of payments, it's going to get bad. But hopefully, the numbers keep getting better despite the occasional person getting sick in the courthouse, and they do eventually open up more. But it's one where, as we used to say, deals and cash for keys, maybe as much as I don't like to don't want to tell people not to use our services, may be your best the way to go, just because for the foreseeable future, you're looking, at a much longer process moving forward. So you got any more questions? Something I didn't hit on?
So, no, I think that's good, Chris. It sounds like, I know we like to use you the most, but right now maybe survival and just working with some of the tenants, if it's possible, sounds like our best bet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if it's somebody that's reaching out to you and they want to make payments and you think, you can get them to make payments, even if it's, like we said, reducing rent payments temporarily, or, just saying, pay me this, catch me up later. That may be your best way to go. It's just, it's hard to say it. And if you do want to file, you just have to kind of choke it up to, don't get too worked up whenever, the court date that you think you had got moved, or the judge is just not going to give a default judgment on that date. Or once you do get the default judgment, you never know when the sheriff is going to come out there. So it's just, patience is all, most of my clients have been, no one's been upset with me about it, but it's been a situation where they are starting to feel it. Cause obviously, you could put up with not getting rent for a while, but particularly the ones that we're most frustrated with are the ones that we had judgments in March or February that had nothing to do with COVID. And they're just sitting there milking it right now going, well, you've already got the judgment on me. Why do I care? I'm going to wait till, we get it out. So if they would just let us do the sheriff, I'd be a happy camper. But really the problem is just, I don't know whether they just don't like the idea of evicting people in the middle of a pandemic. And this is more of a protectionist matter, not wanting to have bad news stories. You hear stories about, is the government going to step in and stop evictions? This could be judges who just go, what's the worst thing in the world? We keep people in their homes and, maybe things get worked out and they don't feel too sorry for the landlords, at least in city and the county.
Yeah.
St. Charles and Jefferson, it's, outside of some slower court dates, and Jefferson in particular, it's, business as usual.
Well, maybe it has something to do with what Kathy said last week, and they don't want to be known as the ones throwing the poor guy out on the media, if they happen to get wind of it.
Right. And I'm sure there's something to be, they're thinking we don't want to get our sheriffs in physical contact with people out there, which rarely happens, but I'm sure must happen at some point.
Sure.
But I just, they tell us what happens. Sometimes they don't tell us why they're doing it all the time. So that's the, we're kind of just, I feel like half my day is spent trying to figure out what the court's doing and calling clerks and judges, trying to, just so I have something to say to my clients and people like yourselves, just so the frustrating thing is we're so used to being the experts and in control of the situation that it's now to this point where we all kind of go, I don't know.
Well, we do appreciate that, Chris. I know it's got to be frustrating for you as much as, more so than it is for us. So, We do appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're all trying to roll through it. I mean, the landlords are making less money, by that front, we're making less money. So we're all kind of tight in the belt. But at some point it's going to go back to semi-normal. And as I said before, you do want to make sure if you are holding off to get somebody that you may want to get in line before the end of August, whenever all the big complexes are chomping at the bit to get their filings in place. I know I've got a few that are just, we're waiting until August 24th and they're going to have, dozens for me to file.
Okay.
So that's kind of because they're even worse in the sense that the tenants in those complexes knew they couldn't be evicted. And so they just all together, I mean, we're talking $10,000 in unpaid rent. Yeah.
Wow. Dwayne had a question here, Chris. If we are a LLC, we still cannot file, correct?
No, the LLC versus non-LLC, the only difference between an LLC and owning it yourself is that you have to have an attorney file for you. That's always been the case.
Okay.
The only thing that bars any of you from filing is if your tenant Section 8, or that's the most common, or some other federal rent program, or you have you take advantage of a federally backed mortgage, Freddie or Fannie. That's the only thing that stops you from filing right now for rent and possession. So LLC versus owning it in your own name doesn't have any difference as far as the CARES Act is concerned, or the courts.
Okay, very good. All right, well, that's a great update, Chris. I mean, not everything we want to hear, but actually it's good to stay abreast, and we really appreciate you taking your time to do this for us.
All right, now glad to do it, and I'm sure we'll. Oh, I think Ann's got
a question. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, a question.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for your updates.
Glad to do it.
That had his June 4th court date. Apparently, his power has now been turned off. Back in April, he wasn't paying the bill, so the power company automatically switched it over to the property management company, and they called Ameren and said, no, turn it off. I don't know if they told Ameren it was vacant. I don't know the story there, but apparently Ameren still did their standard 2 notices to an address. Hey, trying to reach out to see if anyone's living here. They said after 2 notices and no response, they record it as vacant and turn it off. And granted, I know there's a CARES Act that's protecting tenants right now, but at least on Ameren's end, they think it's vacant. No one's responding, so they turned it off. Can we go in and at least open the refrigerator and clean it out so we don't have rotting food?
So I would always say, if you think there's a chance your tenant's gone, I have no problem with you, particularly if they haven't changed the locks on you, you've got a key, going over there, knocking on the door. If nobody answers, unlocking, poking your head in. And if no one, punches you in the face and says, get out of here, going in and looking around to make sure they're there. That's a valid reason to check on your property. And even if there's a bunch of things in there and you're concerned that they're not moved out, I still don't have a problem with you cleaning out rotten stuff out of the fridge. I always say, if you're going to enter into property that's not empty, take pictures of everything so that if they ever say you came to my property and stole my TV, you can then decide, no, here's the picture I took on the day I walked in, there was no TV. But
Do you need me, do you think?
no, I think we're good.
Okay.
Kathy just popped. Kathy says hi. She just got back. So then you get in and you believe it's abandoned. You look in there. I said the most common things: rotten food in the fridge, piled up mail. If you go in the closets and there's no clothes, the dresser, because those are all good signs that they've left. Because typically they'll leave furniture, they'll leave garbage, but they'll take their clothes. If you have in the power being shut off and Ameren telling you they've tried reaching out, is a good indicator that they may have abandoned the property. So I had a client call me about this yesterday, while we're in the middle of this, and particularly because you said you had a date that got pushed back to July, you may want to do a notice of abandonment. A notice of abandonment, there's 2 requirements: that you have reasonable belief that they are in fact abandoning the property, meaning, you got to really believe it. and two, that they're more than 30 days behind on their rent. The fact that you're already in court tells me that the second option part is already met. So your reasonable belief, that gets influenced by all these things I'm talking about. So that's where you write it all down. This is why I thought they were gone. And then you post it, then you make a notice that says, I believe you've abandoned the property. And if I don't hear from you in 10 days, I'm taking back possession. You then make 3 copies of that notice, or make 4 or 1 for yourself, but 3 copies get sent to the tenant. They're mailed, regular mail, mailed certified mail, and also posted on the door. And then if you don't hear from them within 10 days or you don't think they've come back, you can then take back possession. It's not as ironclad as doing your rent in possession and getting the sheriff, but it does get you a little bit of legal ground if you start disposing of things. If you're really concerned that there's a lot of belongings after you've done that, particularly since you already have a rent in possession on file, I would say get in there, start getting the place ready to re-rent, maybe put anything that's of value in a separate room, side room while you're doing all the work and getting it ready to go. Then you move forward with your rent in possession, get the sheriff out there, sheriff comes out, and then you can dispose of the rest of the belongings. So that's what I told someone to do yesterday. And it all comes down to whether you really believe they're gone and in a reasonableness standard. So, and if it's just garbage in there, just clean it out and be done with it. If it's abundantly clear they're gone, I wouldn't even go through the abandonment process.
It's always best, probably, like you said, too, to take some pictures. I would even take pictures maybe of the junk. Just to
Absolutely. My advice is if there's anything in there, it's like there's not keys sitting on the countertop, which is, 50-50. Take pictures every room just so you could, for your own protection. So even if they do sue you, and even if the judge says, you know what, Ann, you shouldn't have done that, you're capping your damages at their garbage. Because they can't, I've had it before where people come in and say, oh, I had 3 Nintendos sitting in the closet. You didn't, stuff like that. So just click. And the judge is going to, not only is it protect you, but a judge is going to see that you were conscientious at the time. This wasn't some rogue landlord coming and kicking doors down and throwing things away. So yeah. Now, on the other hand, if you get in there and it's pretty clearly someone's still coming and going and living there, lock it up and, just go through with your rent and possession to be on the safe side.
Okay. Great advice. We had a couple of questions here, Chris. Bruce wanted to know, any changes due to SCOTUS decisions, SCOTUS? I'm
assuming you're talking about the LGBT protections under as it relates to the Fair Housing Act.
Mm-hmm.
One, in St. Louis City, they already have that protection through the city's ordinances. But we've always said, we think this is coming anyway. You should not discriminate based upon sexual orientation or any of these things. But I would say that yes, once it's going on for this one, eventually it's going to be interpreted by a court to apply to the Fair Housing Act. That wasn't the point of the case, but they're going to, if somebody were to discriminate based upon sexual orientation, I guarantee it's going to come up sooner or later to the point that I would just say, to be on the safe side, if you were, that you needed to comply with, treat it as if you are barred from discriminating based upon sexual orientation, which I'm sure most of you already weren't doing anyway. I would say, yes, that is something that as a real estate attorney, that was my first thought, was there goes the Fair Housing Act is going to be expanded to define sex, which is already in there, as sexual orientation is a subset of that.
Okay. And let's see, Harry says, are the utilities able to turn off utilities? I guess he's talking about utility companies able to turn off. I don't know what special rules they have with COVID, whether there was, I'd heard there maybe were some sort of, temporary moratorium on that. As it applies to what I often hear my landlords asking, the most common question is whether, if they say made the mistake of having a utility in their name, or it's water where it has to be in your name, can you call them and say, hey, they're not paying their bill, or just choose to no longer pay your bill and have them shut it off. I always say that's a bad idea, because it can be construed as you constructively evicting them without going through the court process. And also the bigger problem you're going to have is, I've seen what happens whenever
water gets shut off, whenever other utilities get shut off, and someone's still living in there, and it's not pretty for what you have to clean up whenever you get in there and get out. So, but as far as whether there's a bar on the municipality shutting it off, I don't know the answer to that.
All right. Any other questions here? Great. Well, we really appreciate you showing up today, Chris.
Glad to do it.
I know it's taken your time, and we really do appreciate your time, and we value it very much. Would you like to go ahead and give your contact information again so we have it?
Yeah. So you can call, for those of you who are in before, I handle St. Louis City issues, St. Charles County and Jefferson. Our phone number is 314-962-1115. My extension's 15. If you got something in St. Louis County of a question about Christine Travaglini, her extension is 14 at that same number. She would be your best resource. If you got something more general or about foreclosures or anything like that, Kathy's extension is 11.
Okay, excellent. And we will have a replay up here with our recording on our website. And you're always welcome to that. Everyone is. So we really appreciate it. And we'll look forward, I guess, to seeing you next week. You have any last word?
See you guys. No, just, keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for showing up.
Thank you.